We are live. What's going on, everybody? Thursday, March 14th. Happy birthday to my wife. Big day today in the Engelman household. Although she's not here to celebrate it, at least not right now. Coming home from Boston today.
Happy birthday to her.
I'm sure she'll appreciate that. Good night last night for me. I'm very happy with DFS performance, but I'm even happier. You can see I'm not, well, Laffy, you can't see it right now. I don't have my laser background like I normally have. I've put myself in a room with a throne, big gold pillars, because I am really beating up on Adam here. 3-0 in Thrive. Took him out behind the woodshed and really put a stomping on him.
I am sure he's broken up over this.
I hope that he is, even just like a little bit.
I bet he can't handle it.
The gloating is just, it's so much fun. It really, really is. 3-0. Bringing out the brooms on Friday for the full-on sweep, and then I'm just going to be even more insufferable than I normally am.
Well, I'm sure everyone's looking forward to that.
I doubt it a lot.
You are.
I doubt it a lot. No one more than me. How'd your night end up?
Good. Good. It was a good night.
That's good. That's good.
I mean, here's the worst part, though. So, put it this way. Jared Allen and Avery Bradley, who obviously chalk, still had a good amount of them.
Yeah.
Ruined my CJ Miles exposure, which...
It's a good guy to have last night, huh?
Which I had, yeah. And the thing is, it was more so just I don't want to play Andre Iguodala, and I don't want to play all these other cheap guys. Miles was cheap enough. Sometimes that's really all it is. It's nothing. It was really nothing more than that. But Allen and Bradley, that keeps you from doing a whole lot. But I'll tell you one thing: it was a very low scoring night. I mean, I had lineups cashing at like 255, 251 on DraftKings, I think it was.
Very low scoring.
Yeah, it was really, really low. So it was just one of those nights. And by the way, do you know what percent ownership did Ayton end up having?
I have absolutely no idea.
Because all I could think the whole night is, God, I can't believe Chalk Ayton against the Jazz is not doing well.
Let me see if I can grab it here. DraftKings contest data. We'll say the shoot around the $12, 150 max. DeAndre 8, and I don't know why I'm opening it the way that I am. I could have just went to 10 other sources to do this. Instead, I'm actually grabbing the CSV like a moron. DeAndre Ayton was 16.5% owned.
Okay, so nothing insane.
Nope. Avery Bradley was the highest owned player in the shoot around last night on DK at 36.5%.
Yeah, I get it.
Jared Allen was 4th. So yeah, that's gonna bring the scores down a little bit.
Yeah, quite a bit. And honestly, like I said, a lot of days I'll try and get away from the pack with like a Miles or with, I think it was Fox pivot off of Chris Paul the other day. So I said I didn't really find there to be great pivots away from Bradley and Allen. I'm sure if some guys ended up doing better, so you don't need to tell me. But like Terrence Ross was a pivot and he did terribly.
Yes, he did.
So there weren't that many. The entire Washington Wizards starting lineup, not named Bradley Beal, scored 18 points last night. 18 points. Take the Memphis Grizzlies starting lineup, not including Mike Conley. They scored 19 points last night. Or I'm sorry, 23 points. 23 points, yeah.
That's not good.
Pretty incredible.
That's really just not great. Oh, apparently it's Steph Curry's birthday today, too. Look at that. Look at that.
They got their first win of the season against the Rockets. They lost the series 1-3.
Yeah, that's craziness. No Durant, too. Nuts.
Yep. I had him win.
Preview of next season,
Yeah. There's no, you had to have Golden State winning that game right there because it just felt like a Golden State win. They've been struggling. They lost to Phoenix. They have no Durant. They're not up against a wall, of course, but in the same sense, they got to come out with a win in this one, and they did. It makes sense. They're still the better team,
They certainly are.
and people want to count them out and think that this is all funny because it makes teams and fans of teams believe that they might have a chance when they don't.
No, they probably do not. Barring injury, it would be a monumental upset.
Well, yeah, sure, barring injury, but I mean, in terms of just overall opportunity with everybody healthy.
No, it's they should roll.
Put it this way, I wouldn't put my money on anyone but the Warriors.
Neither would I. NBA Strategy is the promo code. 50% off your first month with us. Any package you choose, any monthly package you choose, including stuff with Fantasy Cruncher, which is a paid add-on. So if you want to check out our content, use the promo code NBA Strategy when signing up. We are not brought to you by Thrive today, but I certainly have to shout him out after how well things are going for me and not well for Adam. I hope that he can make it to the deeper dive today. If we had to like mail out paper copies of the deep dive, I would imagine they would be stained in tears.
Like I said, he's broken up.
Yeah. We got 6 games today. It's not my favorite slate in the world, but there's a couple spots that are just absolutely insane. So I think we should just dive in. What do you think?
Let's do it.
Alrighty, first game up on the docket today. Indiana Pacers hosting the Oklahoma City Thunder. Paul George revenge narrative. Live in full effect. 111 implied total for the Pacers, 110 for the Thunder. This is a massive pace-up spot for Indiana. I have them gaining 5 possessions in this game. Thunder defense hasn't been crazy good lately. So this is an all-right spot for Indiana. They're getting a solid amount of ownership scattered across, the normal people that get it here. How do you feel about Miles Turner? He's 7,600 on FanDuel, 6,700 on DK, 29 on Yahoo. I actually don't have him at all right now, and that kind of concerns me.
I don't have any issues with him. I mean, if you're looking at the position, again, it's all about what are we doing here with depth, and I think there's a little bit of depth. It's not bad, but Miles Turner at 6,700 to me stands out for one reason, and that is even with Sabonis back, he played 37 minutes last game. Domantas Sabonis off the bench was limited to 18 minutes of work.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if this is what Nate McMillan's going to continue to do, but hey, he seems to have placed a little bit more trust in Miles Turner lately, and that can take you a long way. Because if you're getting 35 now, if you're asking me if I'm projecting Miles Turner at 35, 36 minutes, I don't feel confident doing that. But at the same time, can I project him for more than 30 minutes? Yeah, I think I have to. I'm putting him at 32. That means that he's going to pop more often than he would if I'm only projecting him for 30. And it's also a pace-up spot. So while it's not a great matchup against OKC, there's a few things that stand out. Miles Turner is one of the best shot blockers in the league, actually leads the league in block shots per game. More opportunities for block shots, especially with Russell Westbrook driving to the rim at such a high clip like he does. And Schroeder as well. Maybe you block a couple Jeremy Grant shots along the way. More rebounding opportunities. This is, to me, a pretty decent spot for Turner despite the matchup with Steven Adams. And Steven Adams is playing a second of a back-to-back along with the rest of this Thunder team. So if there ever was a time to face him, I wouldn't have a problem with it being tonight.
Yeah, you made a good point about the minutes. I didn't realize how much they had trended up over the past, 2.5, 3 weeks. Multiple, 37, time. 35, 36.
Now, Sabonis wasn't in for all of them, but
right,
he has been for a couple.
Yeah, I just gave him 32 right now to see how that changes anything. I don't get the sense that I'm going to get a lot of him tonight. I'm just trying to look around
when I move him from 30 to 32, which I mentioned, I mean, I have him at 32. If I get him to 32, then I'm getting him at around 38 and a half, 39 fantasy points.
Yeah.
At 6,700, that comes up as pretty decent value for me.
So right now, I have him sandwiched between two guys I would rather have more. And that's really...
At center?
Yeah.
Who?
Pascal Siakam at 6,900, and then Paul Millsap at 66.
Really?
Yes. Yeah.
You'd rather have Paul Millsap over Miles Turner?
Yeah, for sure.
Wow. Okay.
I'm
not even close on that.
Really?
Not even close.
I think you're selling Paul Millsap short, man.
I mean, am I though?
He's been really good lately.
He's been all right. Yeah.
1.18 per minute over the last 30 days. Like, he's been cooking pretty good. Got a fantastic matchup today against Dallas, too.
Yeah, he's been all right. I mean, I'd still prefer someone like Miles Turner more.
Okay.
I mean, look, we can get into it. I won't spend too much time on it, but just in a couple areas, I think when I'm looking at a floor, I believe Turner just with his ability to block shots, and with Paul Millsap, has he looked good? Sure, but when I include the pace increase for Miles Turner, then that just puts it over the top for me because I've got one guy that is I got one guy in Miles Turner who's gets, as you pointed out, a massive pace increase here in a game that really favors him greatly. Forget about the matchup; it favors him big time just from a pace standpoint alone. And then with Paul Millsap, this game, there's no real benefit here whatsoever. Sure, you have the same over under, the same total for both games, but one of these teams gets a huge upgrade in pace, so that'll put him over the top for me. But yeah, I have Miles Turner quite a bit ahead of Paul Millsap today.
Interesting. So just so I can expand on it a little bit more, no ownership on Millsap right now. Probably should have saved this for the Denver section, but since we're here, I do have Turner projected higher than Millsap by a point. I have them as exactly the same on a per minute basis. Both of them are at 1.16 for the day. The big piece for me, and the piece that gets me to a lot more Millsap than Turner, is eligibility. I can play Paul Millsap in more spots in a DraftKings lineup than I can play Miles Turner, and that ends up giving me more Paul Millsap than Miles Turner.
Fair enough. Yeah, I just don't like Millsap all that much at that price is what it is. I know he's looked better lately, but I just have a tough time getting there. We can talk about it when we get to that
sure.
game.
Yeah. Just wanted to point him out because he was there from a salary perspective. So what else do you like from Indiana here? Because I think there's a lot to like, and some of these prices on DraftKings are very advantageous.
Well, yeah, it's funny because this is generally a team that I don't like, and that because I have a tough time trusting them, simply meaning that they're all usually priced right around the same area, and they're all pretty similar in terms of production. And I have in certain matchups, I just usually don't get, like Collison would be a good example. Once in a while he'll get you your 40 fantasy points. Usually he's coming in around that 30 mark. He plays his 30, 31 minutes per game. And that's what you get from him. Now, this is a really big game for the Pacers. So that's, another thing to consider. Pacers have a very tough schedule down the stretch. Sixers schedule is a lot easier down the stretch. They are tied with identical records in the Eastern Conference. So that's a big difference, right? Because you're talking about, either potentially playing the Nets in the first round or the Celtics in the first round. Big difference. And right now the Sixers hold the season series tiebreaker over the Pacers. So they get a win here. They move ahead of them, which would definitely, and the Sixers are idle tonight, so that makes a difference. I expect McMillan to give these guys pretty solid run in this one, and I don't mind Collison. Again, usually I'm not huge on him. I do think Collison is a perfectly fine play here. in a pace-up spot with expanded opportunities just in possession in terms of possessions. Outside of that, I'm not high on Bogdanovich. Take it or leave it. I don't have an issue with him. Hopefully maybe he gets up 16, 17 shots and knocks down 7 threes. If that's the case, you're feeling pretty good about it. And then with Thad Young, he's a take it or leave it type guy at 6K. I don't hate him. I don't love him. It's pretty much the same way I usually feel about him, although at least in this case, they get a significant pace-up matchup against a team that since the start of January is playing at I think they have a fifth. I think they're ranked like 14th or 15th in defensive rating, so they have not been stellar.
I have a lot of Bojan, actually. A bit more than the field on both sites. He's, I would say, my favorite pacer for today. I think the pace-up spot helps him out quite a bit. Collison, I'm sort of the same way you are. Like right now, I'm with the field on DraftKings and half the field on FanDuel. Just not the 6K price tag on DK is pretty nice. He's been crazy solid, like over the past 2 weeks or so. Only 2 of his last 13, 14 games are under 5x at like his salary.
You're talking about Collison?
Yeah, Collison.
Yeah,
that's really nice. Like it's just
he's been
playing a lot better.
He's been consistent for sure. There's no denying that, and that's what's nice about him.
Yeah. He's not a guy I want to be over 23% on though. If the field is there,
it's funny because he's not really volatile, which can be good and can be bad. I would say in a matchup like this where you're getting the pace increase, it's a good thing. Hopefully you have your floor, which we've seen pretty often. And then
he's a nice cash play today.
He is, but I don't hate him in tournaments because look, if you get 40 from Collison at 6K, you can win tournaments with that. That's you know what I mean? You don't need 50 out of every player. If Collison gives you 40, and I think he can in this specific matchup, that's not going to hurt you. Actually, that's pretty solid. So I do like Collison, and we talk about this a lot. We have Indy on our strategy show a lot, it seems.
Yeah.
Or at least recently. Usually Collison's a guy that I'm very, very willing to come in underweight on because he always seems like he's a top 5 ownership guy. He's not particularly low owned today in terms of where we have him projected right now, but he's not top 5. So I don't mind Collison, and I think this game you're going to want to get some pieces of it for sure.
Yeah, I'll have quite a bit. He's at 11% expected ownership on DraftKings right now, so maybe this isn't going to be as sneaky, but Tyreke Evans is out today. Corey Joseph is 3,500. If I'm ever going to take shares of Corey Joseph, it's a day where Tyreke is out and he gets an additional, 2 or 3 minutes and you're in a pace up spot. But if he's at 11%, like it's not even a creative take.
Right.
OKC side?
Sure.
I'm not supposed to mention, but I'd like to mention apparently OKC has an 8 MA score, the ESPN rest metric, where it's, they've played a lot and they've got like multiple road back-to-backs.
What that is.
So they have this metric that tracks like schedule losses, basically. Teams that are in really negative positions from travel. So, they've played 3 of 4. They're on the second set of a back-to-back on a 3 and 4. And the Thunder games, this particular Thunder game stands out as like negative from a travel perspective for OKC, coming in on a back-to-back into Indiana. So whatever you want to take out of that, this is not a great spot for the Thunder. And I'm very happy about that because I basically don't have any Westbrook or George on DraftKings.
Right.
And, they're priced a lot better on FanDuel. I'm basically with the field there, and the roster construction changes up the game a little bit. I'd be very surprised if I end up with much, if any, Russ or Paul George today. How do you feel about those guys?
Yeah, one might think that in baseball you travel the most by air, but it's actually basketball. It is not baseball because you don't have 3 and 4 game series. In basketball, you travel more than any other sport, which is it's definitely a testament to these guys' endurance, man. these back-to-backs where you see him traveling from, like, Chicago to Atlanta, it might not seem all that bad, but when you're doing it that many times a season, and they do, it's intense, man. Like, it is there's no question that it's a pretty grueling schedule
Yeah.
when you think about it. Um, yeah, this is an interesting spot for me. I'll say first that it was good to see Paul George get back on track yesterday, and I had a decent amount of George, and all I could think of was after his first 8 minutes of the game, he's 0 for 2. I'm like, "Yep, here we go again. I'm an idiot. Why did I do it?" And then did he have a monster game? No, but it was good enough because it allowed me to get a lot of other, good players into the lineup at what was he, 9,700 or whatever,
Right.
9,600. You know, Westbrook had a monster game. He continues to shoot well from beyond the arc, which is incredibly surprising.
I was watching a little bit of that, and he was pulling up and burying it, and I was like, "Oh, it's gonna be one of those, huh?"
Yeah. Oh, and it was, man. It was a fun game.
They talked about it too. They were like, "Oh, Westbrook knocked that one down. It's a little tricky for someone that's a 28% three-point shooter." I was like, "Oh my god."
Right. Right, and he keeps doing it, man. But so here's the thing, you're right. They are coming off of last night's game. They're on the road for a back-to-back. On the 7th and the 8th, they had back-to-back. On the 2nd and the 3rd, they had back-to-back. So get this. This is their 3rd back-to-back in March already, and we're not even 15 days into the month.
Yeah, and this will be their 3rd game in 4 days.
Yeah, and their 8th game in March.
Yeah.
So, 8 games in 14 days, that's quite a bit. I would say that actually. Well, they played the 2nd, so it's their 8th game in 13 days.
Yeah.
I agree. In terms of scheduling, this is a tough spot for them. Wouldn't be surprised to see them disappoint. Now, when you're talking about what the odds look like on this game, if it shows up in the total, or sorry, in the spread, I I think it does because the Pacers are favored even if by only 1 point. I think that's an indication of something.
Sure.
I don't know if I get there either here today. Paul George had already been showing some signs of either not being 100% or fatigue. It was good to see him shoot 50% from the field, 50% from three-point range yesterday. That was really encouraging. But he played 37 minutes, and Westbrook played 36 minutes. But Westbrook is not your typical human. Like,
No, he's
he
not.
is if you cut him open, you'd probably clank into metal at some point. He's a robot.
Yeah.
And he doesn't get tired. He's just endurance, he's amazing. It's unreal. So, I'm never going to argue against, having some Russell Westbrook in my lineups, but as of right now, I agree. It definitely seems tougher to do than yesterday where I wanted one of these guys in most everywhere.
Yeah, so on DK, I have Paul George at 3%. That's the highest I have of anybody on Oklahoma City. I'm just not there. Now on FanDuel, I've got 20% Russ, 13% Paul George, and then the one that you really can't get away from, 32% Schroeder, 5K. He's $600 cheaper on FanDuel than he is on DraftKings. So I don't mind getting to some of Oklahoma City because of the way that you have to construct rosters on FanDuel, but on DraftKings, I am not there. I would much rather have most of Indiana.
Yeah, if I just ran a quick crunch. I came up with I actually did get around 25% George on DraftKings. And I mean, the $9,700 price point has a lot to do with it. Do I want to end up on that much? Will I at the end of the day? I don't know. But I think, if I ended up on a little bit more George than I did Westbrook, I'd be all right with that because you're getting him at a sub 10K price point. The question is, do you think George can continue dropping those 60+ fantasy point games? I'm of the mindset that stretch he was on was slightly over his head. Now, I don't want to say that he's not still an incredible
Paul
player.
George, man.
Was that?
You hate Paul George.
What makes you think that? When have I ever
just like, he was everything that he was doing before he was playing over his head. He's not that good, right? Did I hear you correctly?
Oh yeah, no, I mean no question. Earlier in the season, let's say like a month ago, he was playing over his head. I don't think there's any debate actually. I don't. To assume that he would keep shooting at at that clip.
Yeah.
No way.
No.
So
we talked about that too, though. I forget which. This in the heat of it all, we talked about how he was shooting some sort of really crazy percentage with guys within like 2 feet of him.
he was,
knocking
yeah.
down like 50% of his threes with a guy in his face. Generally speaking, unsustainable.
Exactly. So, I mean, I think he still continues to have big games, but here, let me put it to you this way. I wouldn't be surprised that by the end of the season, George is 9,800 on DraftKings, and we've all agreed that that's a pretty reasonable price point. That's the way I'll put it.
I would agree. Any interest in Schroeder on FanDuel?
Sure. I mean, he's fine. Schroeder's shooting woes went overlooked because of how bad Paul George had been. Outside of that 10 for 18 shooting game against Utah, where George only shot 8 times, Schroeder had been shooting terribly as well. I mean, Schroeder had been awful off the bench, and he had been another reason why they were losing games over that 6-game stretch. He went back to shooting 3 for 10 yesterday, 1 for 4 from 3-point range. He's fine. I don't have an issue with him. He should get around 28 minutes, but he's another guy that was shooting pretty poorly. On FanDuel, he'd have more interest in on DraftKings, where I'd have 0.
Same. I got 1% Schroeder on DraftKings, so it's only a FanDuel play for me.
I ran 200 lineups, got 0%.
Yeah, that's very reasonable. Want to move on to Orlando?
Let's do it.
Alrighty. The Orlando Magic are hosting the Cleveland Cavaliers, who are really bad at basketball and yet somehow beat good teams. I don't get it. 109 implied total for the Magic, 101 for the Cavs. That 101 number is the dirt worst on the slate, 3.5 points below the Dallas Mavericks. Magic, good defense. Cavs, bad defense. This is a slow-paced game. Cavs are without Larry Nance and somebody else.
Who are you talking? The Cavs?
Yeah.
We have no Larry Nance. Tristan Thompson is still questionable, I believe.
I think he's just out.
No, he's out. He's been ruled out.
Dellavedova is out as well.
And Dellavedova, yeah.
I knew I was missing somebody. We'll start on the Orlando side. Vooch is 10-5 on FanDuel, 9,200 on DraftKings. I'm just with the field here. I clearly like Vooch. There's no one, it's either Digic or Kevin Love guarding him, I guess, today. You should not be too worried about it, but I'm not getting an overwhelming amount of Vooch. This game is just a little tricky. But I do want a couple other pieces from Orlando. So let's get your take on Vooch first.
Sure. Came in around 20% initially.
Yeah.
Against Cleveland with no Tristan Thompson, with no Larry Nance, going up against Ante Digic and Marcus Chris. Yeah, I think it's a really favorable spot for Vooch. Now, he's playing a second of a back-to-back, so there is that. But that's really not a big concern to me at all. Look, he's an NBA player.
Yeah.
Like I don't think that you rule somebody out just because they're on a back-to-back. I'm looking something up right now. Let's see. On back-to-backs, Vooch has played 12 of them. He's averaging over 31 minutes, 22 points, 11 rebounds, 5 assists, just to see how that aligns with his. Yeah, I mean, he has been no worse at all on back-to-backs this year at all. And Vooch is playing much bigger minutes.
Yeah.
Now that they've fallen another game back in the race, assuming they were trying to get a playoff spot here, I don't know how that works out. But if you actually take a look at this, the Magic are 2 games back of the Heat, 1 game back in the win column. The Wizards yesterday were 2.5 games back of the Magic. Now they are 1.5 games back after beating them, and the Hornets are sitting there at 10th. So what does that mean? Well, I think it means that you're going to continue to see Vooch get more minutes than he was before. and now he's played 36, 34, 35, 35, and 35 minutes over his last 5 games. Compare that to the 31 minute per game average on the season. If I'm getting 34 to 36 minutes from Vooch against the Cleveland Cavaliers, just ask me where to sign up because I'm in on this for sure.
Yeah, so you mentioned you got like 20%. That's where the public is on DK. I got
25 to be exact.
I got 17, so we're in the same
Okay.
ballpark. We're going to be right around the field. It's really hard to get away from him. I got him in for 34 minutes. The only thing that's bringing me down is really just the slow pace and low scoring nature of this game. Or
Yeah,
if the Cavs were a bad team that played quick, I'd probably have like 45% Vooch.
right. I mean, the one thing about the Cavs though is that to some extent at least, their slow pace is mitigated by the worst defense in the league by a wide margin. I mean,
Yeah.
they are so bad defensively that, and now they don't have. Not only are they bad defensively, but you don't have, 2 of your starting bigs. I think it's Kevin Love. Put it this way, Kevin Love is not exactly somebody that gives you a whole lot of confidence as a defender. That
He's had one good defensive play in his entire career, I think.
Right, he's not out there for defense. So this just feels like a very opportune spot for Vooch, even if the pace is slow. I mean, look, usually you're not looking against some of the slowest paced teams, but I mentioned this the other day, I think on the deeper dive. Low total games do not mean I'm ignoring them entirely. It just means, you have to be a really strong play. And I do think Vooch is. So yeah, I don't mind coming around 20-25% on him.
I've got that same 20-ish% on both sites for Aaron Gordon. I've got Evan Fournier in the low teens. A little bit of John Isaac. A lot of bit of Terrence Ross at 5,300, who was super shitty yesterday. And then I have a lot of DJ Augustine on FanDuel right now, 4,600. He is 33% projected ownership, very chalky. I got more than that, actually. So hit me with the rest of your Orlando takes.
Interesting. What did you say you're getting on Augustine?
47 on FanDuel. I got 29 on DK. Both of those numbers are just slightly higher than the public.
All right.
He's the second most owned guy on DK as well for the Magic.
Yeah. Augustine, there's one thing about him that you need in a spot like this. You need to get the minutes. And if he's going to play, like, you really need the minutes from Augustine because he's not going to get it done by way of, excellent per minute efficiency. It's not going to happen. I don't have an issue with him. I mean, yesterday, I put it this way. If I liked Augustine yesterday as just a routine punt, then there's really no reason not to today. Yes, they got a nice pace increase against the Wizards, but defensively, Cleveland is worse. Augustine at $4,400 on DraftKings. I don't have an issue with that. I don't have an issue at 43 on FanDuel. Now, I will say this much. He is one of those guys to me where if alternate value opens up, he'll probably become one of those casualties.
Yep.
But as of now, yeah, DJ Augustine makes plenty of sense because you don't need a huge game from him. Just give me the 30 minutes, the 31 minutes, and I think he should get you at least where you need to go at a very, very discounted price. And then with Aaron Gordon, it's really the same thing. He's still affordable. He's $6,500 on DraftKings, 71 on FanDuel. He's actually come down $200 on DraftKings since yesterday. He only shot 4 for 13, but he played 34 minutes. Get him against Cleveland here. No issues at all with Gordon. You can't play all of these guys, of course. So, I have to take a stand somewhere. With Jonathan Isaac, I just prefer not to roster this guy most of the time. It feels like when you talk about, where are the ceilings on these guys? Isaac's ceiling seems to be right around 30 fantasy points.
Yeah, he's the one guy that I have half the field of for the Magic. Everybody else I'm like with or ahead of. Isaac's the one that I don't have.
Yeah, I mean, what's his projected ownership right now on FanDuel?
9
is 9%. Yeah. On
I got less than that.
On DraftKings, 15%.
Yeah, I only got 7 there.
Isaac's one guy that I don't mind coming in and to wait on. I feel like he should probably be 48, 47 on DraftKings, 45. It's tough for me to get up there.
Yeah, that $6,500 price tag on FanDuel is particularly egregious.
Yes, it very much is.
Do we need to talk about Cleveland now?
Looks like we do.
Ugh. I assume that I need to take a much closer look at Kevin Love's rates. I'm guessing that since he's been back, he has had some really incredible shooting. Just looking at what I have here. I don't have him at all. He's at 3% owned on FanDuel, 2% on DK. Do you like Kevin Love?
Well, on the season, Kevin Love is churning out 1.42 DraftKings points per minute. That's pretty decent.
Yeah.
But no, I did not end up on Kevin Love either. And, I think one of the reasons for that probably is how many minutes are you giving him? Because,
30.
right, and so am I. So even if I'm giving him 30 minutes, right, which we don't even know if he gets there. Like, it's very possible he plays, 29 again or so. But I think, last game blew out. 30 minutes seems pretty appropriate. 31, okay. And then per minute, I have him at 1.33. If I'm giving him that, he's still not going to show up as a great value here. Now that he's $8,100. If Love was still in the low sevens, I'd probably have him in abundance. But now you're getting to a point where it's a little bit more difficult to get there and feel good about it.
Yeah, I'll be very surprised if I end up getting to him. Let's see. He's shooting 40% from three for this season.
Well, it's not too crazy.
No.
He's a good three-point shooter. He's a great rebounder. I mean, the thing is, you don't really have enough of a sample to take Thompson and Nance off the court and see how he does with this starting lineup. We don't have an abundance of minutes in that situation. I think, without LeBron too, and without all of these guys, I see it as Kevin Love at 8,100 and what is he, 8,700? He's the most expensive power forward on FanDuel.
Right.
It's a little bit more difficult to get there. Orlando defensively has been playing better. And, usually you get a pretty significant pace up spot for Cleveland, no matter who they're facing. It's not really the case with Orlando, right? Orlando's averaging about one possession per 48 more than Cleveland is. So it's really not the greatest matchup for Kevin Love.
No. And he's been on a heater, 1.37 FanDuel points per minute over his last 30. He's shooting, let me make sure I get this right, 62.8% true shooting since the deadline. He's at 58% for this entire season. And that 62.8 number would be by far the highest of his career. Previously, it was 61 last year, then 57, 55, 56. He's just been he's been incredibly good shooting lately, which is buoying that FanDuel that per minute projection. So I'm happy coming in under that number. I don't get the sense that he should be terribly more efficient with this team now, handling more of a load than previously. So
even if I put him at 31 minutes, I still not gonna get there on much. A little bit more, bit more, maybe 10%. I'm looking at it right now. Yeah, about 10, 15%. But if I have him at 30 minutes, it's funny. I don't get any.
I'm under the field on all of these guys, but I do have two guys at least in double digits of ownership. Colin Sexton at 12% on DK. We're projecting 18. And then Djigic on DK. I've got 17%. We're projecting 27. He is 4K. I don't have any of these guys more than 5% on FanDuel, so I don't really have much to add there. How do you feel about the rest of Cleveland?
I did get a decent amount of Sexton, and it feels terrible.
Yep.
So
he plays so much.
He does. Personal analysis here. Last game, I had nothing from this side outside of Djigic. No Clarkson, no Sexton. some Chetty, some Chetty because you kind of had to, and then a ton of Djigic, who was a big letdown, playing 34 minutes. You know, he had, what, 20 fantasy points. He played 34 minutes, didn't get into any foul trouble. People were worried about that. Foul trouble had nothing to do with it. He was just terrible. Like,
Yeah.
how, as a starting center playing almost the entire game, do you have 5 rebounds?
That's really difficult to do.
On a team that, think about it, the starting lineup, I tweeted this the other day. It might be the worst starting lineup we've seen all season long. I mean, that was Sexton, Brandon Knight, Chetty Osman, Djigic. Who'd they start at the 3? I can't even remember. It was terrible. Was it Nwaba? I mean,
that's just my guess.
Yeah, it doesn't even matter. It was so bad.
So it's either way.
Might have been. I can't remember.
Mean, just read off the names on the Cavs. You can pick any one of these trash bags.
Right. It's 100% unimportant. But yeah, with Sexton today, he's inexpensive. There isn't a ton of value right now. He's getting a lot of minutes. And then with Djigic, how many minutes do you have Djigic for is the question.
I gave him 28. I can very easily go more than that. I wanted to see how it shook out at a normal number to start, and then see if I needed to juice it at all. But I think I'm pretty comfortable at 28.
Okay, and per minute,
I can get to 30, and I wouldn't even bat an eye.
Yeah, 28 seems about okay. So you still have no Thompson, you still have no Love, but you get Marcus Chris back, and you get Kevin Love back.
Right.
Does Kevin Love affect him at all? Well, Chetty Osman goes back to playing the 3, so maybe it doesn't affect him that much. That would be my question. Does it actually affect him that much? You know, if Channing Frye just goes back to seeing no minutes, Marcus Chris takes them, Chetty Osman moves back out of the 4. Does it hurt his minutes? You know, should we be projecting him for north of 30?
If somebody wanted to give him 30, I wouldn't have much of an issue with it.
Yeah,
I wouldn't have any issue with it, actually.
Trying to reason this one out, because the way I see it is, it seems like Kevin Love coming back shouldn't make that much of a difference in his playing time.
It all depends on how much they want to play Kevin Love at the 5 is really the answer.
Right, and I don't imagine that it'll be all that often.
Not today, no. I would assume that Kevin Love plays every non-Djigic center minute, and the goal would be for those to be 18 or 20 and not 30. Otherwise, Vooch is going to eat him alive.
Well, I would assume that. Well, wait. You think Love gets every non-Djigic center minute? No, there's no way.
Who does then?
How would you do that if you'd have to stagger them in the wildest fashion.
Sure. Who else is going to play the 5? I mean, we might be talking semantics if you're going to say that Marquise Chris is the 5.
Yeah, it'd be no. It's not semantics. Love won't be on the court. Hear me.
How many minutes do you have Marquise Chris playing?
Let me look. Well, listen to what I'm saying now. I'm saying that if Kevin Love is starting, and Marcus Chris is coming off the bench, I would imagine that Chris is going to get some of those center minutes.
Sure.
I don't know how you could stagger them any differently than that. Maybe in the second and fourth quarter. But
if we're going to call Marquise Chris the 5 in that spot and flip-flop 4-5, we're talking about the same thing then. If we have similar totals.
I don't think we are, because I'm saying both Djigic and Love will be off the court. So the only other players would be not 5s.
I don't think we see a lot of time like that.
All right. I mean, I'm not saying we see a lot, but you said we see every non-Djigic center minute as Kevin Love. And I'm saying I think Marcus Chris probably plays at least 7-8 minutes with both of them off the court. That's what I'm saying. I would assume that you're going to see. So last game they played together, you saw about 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. about I won't include the blowout minutes in the last 3. You saw about 11 minutes where Djigic and Love were both off the court, and that was against a sizable front court again in Toronto because Gasol started.
Yeah, I'm taking a look at it now.
I'm not saying I'm sure of it. I just don't see how if they both start that Love's playing every backup 5-minute. That wouldn't make sense to me.
I'm with you. How many minutes did you give Marquise Chris?
Let me see here. Because I don't think I have him for a lot.
I gave him 16.
1 second. I wanted to see what he played last game just to make sure here because he played 14 minutes through 3 quarters, and that's when he got ejected, right? So I had him at 15 right now.
So
yeah,
I have numbers in bad columns, but we're getting to the same output.
just making sure there wasn't any foul trouble or anything for either of these guys. Yeah, 15 minutes seems about reasonable.
Yeah, like if I like I can just massage those 4 or 5 numbers and get the same totals, but just have them in different spots.
Right.
But I'm with you now. Do we have anything else here? Did you have anybody else you wanted to touch on?
No, I would love to move on from this one.
You and me both. Boston Celtics hosting the Sacramento Kings. Before we move on, while you're here, everybody hit that like button. Super helpful for us. 116.75 implied total for the Celtics. 109.25 for the Kings. So 7.5 point line for Boston. Massive pace up spot for the Celtics, which I feel like we don't see all that often. Marcus Smart, questionable. Jason Tatum, probable. Daniel Tice, questionable. We want to talk about their current injury status. Kyrie Irving, 9,900 on FanDuel, 8,900 on DK. I've got a lot of Kyrie today. How you feeling about him?
Yeah, Kyrie's, I'll tell you, he's let me down a lot this season, man. He's disappointed me a lot this season. I've had a couple great spots from him. You know, he's done me well in some areas. And then, man, he is just shit all over me. Metaphorically, of course. He has not really done me well in a lot of, like, against the Clippers, they got trashed at a good amount of Kyrie. What was the other one? What was the other one where it was just a brutal performance? I won't bother going back and looking, but he's had a few where you just scratch your head thinking, my God, what happened, Kyrie? For the most part, though, there's no reason he should be under 9K on DraftKings in this matchup. Absolutely no reason that Kyrie Irving should be sub 9K at home against the Kings. It is very much that simple. I am a big fan of Kyrie today. I don't see why you wouldn't be. There's just not a lot to not like about him. He's, ownership wise, he's going to come in and right now he's looking at we're in the top 20, but nothing outrageous here. Clear pace up spot. Sacramento overtook the Hawks for playing the fastest pace in the league this season. Meanwhile, the Boston Celtics are, right, they're in the bottom half of the league, but right around the middle of the pack. There is surely a lot to like here when it comes to Kyrie Irving. He is in a great spot just from a pace standpoint alone. And I think, Al Horford's another guy against a Sacramento team that, allows more rebounds to opposing centers than any other team. And it's actually not even close. The interesting thing about Sacramento is that from a actual production standpoint, when you're talking points and fantasy points, they haven't been terrible against centers, but the rebounding and the pace alone and what I expect, Sacramento is a good enough team where I think, this game doesn't need to blow out. It's got a 229 total. I like Irving and I like Al Horford quite a bit. Plus, Al Horford's price came down even further on DraftKings.
Yeah, I've got Kyrie at 35% on FanDuel. I've got 29 on DK, so both pretty sizably over the field. Horford I have at 19%. He's another guy in that range that I would likely get more of than Miles Turner. Again, because of the dual position. Just really gets me the ability to have more. And then Jason Tatum at 5,700 is a nice price tag. He's at 18% expected ownership on DK. I got 20. I'm really looking at those top 3 Boston guys.
Yeah. So Jason Tatum, he is expected to play. He's a guy that I am very much take it or leave it on because put it this way. Ran 200 lineups, got 10% Jason Tatum,
Okay.
and I am 100% okay with that.
Sure.
100% happy to get 19 out of 200 Jason Tatum lineups, because once I start getting above that, then I get a little bit concerned. He's just one of those guys where, if he's actually pretty similar to Darren Collison when everyone's healthy on this team, where you're not expecting a big ceiling game very infrequently, although his floor might even be a little bit lower. So that's pretty much where I'm at. If I come in around 10-15% on Tatum, I'm fine with it. If it's single entry or 3 max or whatever, then I think I can do better than Tatum.
I really, really, really hate the players in the salary range around Tatum. Not so much that I'm just never comfortable, and I feel like they're all the same guy with a different flavor. This is just the gap of guys that play small forward and power forward around Tatum's price on DK. Ingles, Thad Young, Wiggins, Barton, Chetty, Fournier, Favors. I never look at those guys and think, I can't wait to get a ton of them.
But, yeah, no, I don't
one or two of those guys go for 40 constantly. And I feel like it's just a grab bag of figuring out who those guys are on a given night.
Oh, it surely is. Yeah. I mean, doesn't mean you can't just avoid that tier altogether, but let's see, power forward. Where am I coming up with the most? Yeah, there's kind of a mixture of a lot there. But mind you, it's not like Aaron Gordon's that much more expensive. Pascal Siakam, they are more expensive, but they're not crazy overpriced or marked up from Tatum where you can't make it work either.
No, not at all. Just that range is the most perplexing. The wing range of of average price guys on DraftKings is the toughest thing for me to look at on a daily basis.
I agree. It's generally pretty terrible.
And
that 5 to 6,500K range on at small forward on FanDuel is equally atrocious most nights.
Yes, it is. Let's take a look at the Kings. De'Aaron Fox, 7,800 on FanDuel, 7,200 on DraftKings. I got flat 0 here. You going any direct? He just feels mildly overpriced for this spot.
Loved De'Aaron Fox last time out. Yeah. This was so the difference there is last time out you got De'Aaron Fox. I'm sorry, against Washington. Man, he got off to a terrible start, and I'm thinking this was a bad decision. And then finishes the first half with 30 fantasy points or something. And then, of course, was real quiet in the second, gave you 42. You're not going to complain. Outproduced Chris Paul perfectly fine and was lesser owned. The one thing that I think is very important to note with De'Aaron Fox, similar to Vooch, take a look at the minutes we're seeing from him lately. We're seeing a huge spike in playing time.
Yeah.
Now, they have all but fallen completely out of the playoff race. They are 9th in the West, but they're 4.5 games back of the Clippers. It's 6 games back in the win column. It's going to be tough. If it's impossible. Well, anything's possible, but man, they need to win every game and the Clippers would need to lose a lot. But it still looks like Jaeger is adamant on giving his guys big minutes here. You can't lose to the Wizards, though. That won't keep you in the race. So could Fox's minutes come back down here? Yeah, I think they could. The point I'm getting at is I'm projecting him for 35 minutes, and I'm still not getting much at all. So that should tell you something right there.
Yeah, I have him at 33, but even if I went to 35, it's not going to really change matters.
Right.
I basically don't have this game on DraftKings. I got Bogdan for 4%, and that is it. These
You
guys are
don't have
priced
this.
terribly on DraftKings.
You don't have this game or this team.
This team.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I really only have Irving, Horford, and Tatum on DraftKings in this entire game. But yeah, Bogdan at 4% on DK is all I have on the DraftKings side from the Kings. They have really shitty price tags.
Yeah, they do. I even got a lot less Horford on DraftKings than I initially suspected that I would. Willie Cauley-Stein, he's fine, but he's really not.
No.
I don't want him there. Harry Giles is going to play his backup minutes, and then what's gross about that is if you're getting like a 26 and 22, that's not really doing any of us any good, right?
No.
The whole thing is ugly. Mind you, Marvin Bagley might be back today.
Yeah, I got him in for 20 right now.
So if Marvin Bagley plays, it throws a wrench into the works. Bjelica was a guy that was great to me last time out. Basically go heavy on getting off of Bogdanović and playing Bjelica, and he was great. But now if Bagley returns, Bjelica goes back to seeing like no minutes.
Yeah.
Unless of course Bogdanović loses out as well. I don't think that'll be the case. But we had seen Bjelica getting good minutes between the 3 and the 4 with Bagley out. 36 minutes last time, 29-30. If Bagley sits, I'll just throw it out there that I think Bjelica plays another 30-plus minutes. That wouldn't be the worst sneaky play in a game that should feature a decent amount of scoring. So if Bagley remains out, Bjelica is still 4,900.
Yeah.
And Jaeger seems to have let him out of the doghouse.
Yeah, like I said, I gave Bagley 20. I gave Bjelica 14. Corey Brewer 8. If Bagley doesn't play, then stick to the normal script that they've had lately. But even still, they're really difficult to get to on DK. Now on FanDuel, Buddy Hield is $500 cheaper than he is on DraftKings. Bogdan is the same price. So I got 22% Hield on FanDuel and 10% Bogdan. That's really my only exposure to the Kings.
Buddy Hield at 68 on FanDuel is pretty outrageous. I know his last couple of games have been underwhelming.
Yeah, I hope that keeps people off of him.
Yeah, I mean, he's shot poorly in those games, but he's still getting a ton of minutes. He's still getting a ton of shots up, right? Like if you're looking for explanations on whether or not you should play a guy, consider this. Buddy Hield's last 2 games have not been great. He's shot 20 plus times in both of them. He's averaging 34.5 minutes per game in both of them. He just hasn't had any peripherals, and he hasn't knocked down his shots. He's 5 for 22 from long range and hasn't gotten to the free throw line, but still usage is up around 30%. He leads the team in usage since the trade deadline at 30%. At 6,800, I think it's a really reasonable price to get on him.
Yep, same page. And I'm very happy that I have 0 Harrison Barnes.
Dude is just garbage.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not for lack of opportunity, let me tell you.
No. I like him as like the 5th best guy in a starting lineup. Like, I like him being the guy on the Warriors in the corner.
Yeah, I mean, I guess.
With no responsibilities.
Yeah.
Maybe he can go back to Golden State next year.
Harrison Barnes isn't a terrible real-life player. Just for fantasy purposes, he's useless.
Yeah.
Especially when he's priced where he is. The only reason he's priced there is because of minutes.
Yeah. It's certainly not because he's a 0.78 FanDuel point per minute guy.
Exactly. If Barnes played 30 minutes per game, he'd be like 4,100 on DraftKings.
Yep, and still disgusting to roster.
Yep.
Toronto Raptors hosting the Los Angeles Lakers. This one's going to be real tricky today. 120.5 implied total for the Raptors, highest on the slate. 110.5 for the Lakers. So 10-point favorites for Toronto. Massive pace up spot, and the Lakers defense is garbage. Absolute, utter garbage. You and I talked about Kawhi 2 days ago. I didn't have much. You were actually higher on Kawhi than I was for the first time in forever.
Yeah.
Today's a different day. 9,700 on FanDuel, 8,700 on DraftKings. I have 62% Kawhi on FanDuel right now. And I'm right with the field at the 32% number on DraftKings. Well, actually, I'm a little below that at 24, but I really don't know how to get away from Kawhi here.
Yeah, I have even more than that on DraftKings, believe it or not.
I very much believe it. This is about as good as it gets.
It is, and I don't like rostering Kawhi Leonard very often. He's really the Noah Syndergaard of the NBA, routinely overpriced, uh, always underwhelming. But in this spot, you're going to be hard pressed to get away from him. I mean, really, your only major concern here is, does this game get out of hand quickly?
Right.
And I don't have an answer to that. I'm not even going to factor that into anything. So as a result, I'm going to, play Kawhi Leonard. Do you have him at 33 minutes?
I have him at 34 right now. I could bring that down to 33 or 32 because of the game, but I'm still going to end up with just a ton.
Sure.
There are too many boxes to check that are positive in this spot.
I'm curious, what do you have as per minute at?
For today's game, 1.45.
Okay. Yeah. It's hard to get. It's just at that price, given the usually DraftKings bakes the matchup into the price point.
Yeah.
They didn't with Kawhi.
Mm-mm.
He's basically the same price that he was last time and cheaper than he was the few times before that.
I have his target score on DraftKings today at 55 fantasy points.
Okay.
Like, he can do that in a relatively pedestrian way too.
Yeah, I want to
Just
say
because of steals and blocks and stuff. Well, steals in particular, but
I want to say he can. Yeah, I want to say it's routine, but is it? The funny thing is, if you look at Kawhi Leonard's, you look at his salary, like all season long, he started pretty cheap to start the season out.
yeah.
And then he got over he started 8,100, got over 8,700 on the 24th of October. So like a week into the season, right? And then basically he came down one or two times throughout the entire year. Outside of the first two games of the season, this is the cheapest that Kawhi Leonard has been on this entire year, outside of the first couple games, meaning you aren't going to get, better value on Leonard, especially against the Lakers, than you would today.
No, this is as good as it gets.
Mm-hmm.
I just can't get away from him. And that is not the only guy I want to have an absolute shit ton of from Toronto either.
I just hate that he is like, even with Bradley Beal, you're getting better rebounding numbers, better assist numbers. With Kawhi, the problem is, it sounds wild, but it's Kawhi. We put him in the same category a lot of times as a lot of these top tier players, but the difference, Kawhi needs to score 30 points usually to get where you need to go. It's sad but true.
Yeah.
Like, he needs to get in that range. I mean, he has a 15% assist rate, an 11% rebounding rate this year. Those are not great given his price tag. 30% usage, and he's averaging 27 points per game. He is really doing most of it by way of rebounding or by way of scoring, and then, chipping in elsewhere. That's why I'm usually not that high on Leonard, because he doesn't offer the peripherals that, are somehow it feels like we associate more with Kawhi Leonard than we should on most days.
And I think we do, because of how good he is in real life. You appropriate his actual basketball talent to his DFS talent,
Right.
And they're not the
And
same
it's just
thing.
not true.
Yeah, they're not the same thing.
No.
I think everybody agrees that he's one of the 10 best players on the planet, or at least, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Sure.
At least when healthy. That's not the same thing as being like good as a DFS guy.
No, not even remotely.
We don't get credit for him being, one of the 5 best defenders on the planet.
Right.
Like that. And I don't get extra points because he rotated well.
And knocking down the game-winning shot doesn't count for 10 points. It counts for 2.
Right. That said, don't be afraid to play him today because it's as good as it gets.
Yeah, it's a good spot for sure.
I also have 42% Siakam on FanDuel and 47% on DraftKings. Another guy I can't get away from. And don't forget, no Serge Ibaka here because he tried to strangle the life out of Marquise Chris. So these guys look a little bit different with Ibaka off the floor. I want to have a lot of Siakam. I want to have a ton of Marc Gasol, who is clearly chalky. I'm coming in underweight there, so that's probably the guy we need to talk about. What do you
I will come in. I will come in well overweight on Marc Gasol. Like
it's at 47% on DraftKings.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'll happily come in around 60% on Gasol here.
Okay.
I mean, dude, he's the only guy that was keeping him from playing more minutes is not on the court.
Yeah, I gave him 30 today.
Yeah, how could you not?
Yeah.
I mean, so if you look at last game, Gasol started this game in the first half, 7.5. Let's see, where am I here? 7.5. 1 second. He had 3 personal fouls in the first half. So he had 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. He would have played 12, 13, 14. He would have played 15 minutes in the first half. He was already on pace to play around 30 minutes in this game. And then we saw the blowout come into play. And then he had the foul trouble earlier in the game. He caught his second and third foul with 4 minutes left in the second quarter. So yeah, that has something to do with it. And then he didn't play in the rest of the fourth. You saw in the fourth quarter, you saw Malcolm Miller, Chris Boucher, Patrick McCaw, Norman Powell, and OG Anunoby closing this one out. Oh no, I'm sorry, not Boucher. It was Jeremy Lin was out there with them for the last like 5 minutes of this game. That there's clearly I don't see any way that he doesn't get those minutes unless like Boucher gets the run. That seems to be absurd in a spot like this. I don't see why you would do that. Are you going to run Siakam at the 5? I mean, maybe he gets a backup minute or 2 there, but
yeah, I think I gave him like 4.
I have Gasol projected at 33 minutes.
Yeah, I feel like I'm a little low because I have him in at 30.
I just don't know where all the remaining backup minutes are going to come from. I know this. I'm going to even if I were to project Marc Gasol, right? Check this out. Even if I were to project Marc Gasol at his per minute or his season per minute averages, right? And I think he's basically at the same averages per minute that he since coming to Toronto that he is on the season, right around 1.14 on DraftKings. Even if I were to project him for that across 32 minutes or 31 minutes at 5,900, I'm still going to get a lot of him. I have him at 33 minutes and I have him at 1.2 fantasy points per minute. There's just no way I can get away from this today.
No, like I have him in at 30, but I have him at 1.27 for the day,
which is even more than I have him at. So
yeah. He's the best center on the board today.
Yes, so that's why I have no problem coming in overweight on him against the Lakers. If I come in above 60, I even wouldn't care, honestly.
Yep, it's not outlandish. He's the chalk for a reason today.
Yep.
I got 26% Danny Green, so I'm starting to feel a little sick to my stomach. Not something I plan on maintaining, but he's 3,900, so it's just...
Yeah, I got 19%.
Yeah.
That's ugly.
It is what it is there.
That's not fun.
No. And then I got a lovely 50% of Jeremy Lin on FanDuel, so there's that.
You got 50%?
Yeah, so I don't really cap anyone below 4K on FanDuel. That's more of a directional thing to know how my punts will look. It won't actually be 50% Lin. It just means like I'm going to punt point guard a lot.
Right.
He just happens to be the benefactor of it all, but he's the flat minimum, so he's also been shitty for Toronto.
He's been terrible since coming to Toronto, and he's had he's had opportunities too with some guys sitting out.
I feel like he's got to be hurt.
Maybe.
We know a lot about Jeremy Lin. He doesn't strike me as the guy that just like ends up being shitty out of nowhere. I feel like something might be wrong. But
how much Siakam?
I got 42 on FanDuel, 47 on DraftKings.
Yeah, 6,900. Noah Ibaka. Could definitely see Siakam getting some backup minutes at the 5, especially depending on what Walton decides to do here. I mean, of course, JaVale McGee played 33 fucking minutes last time out.
I don't know what
Ridiculous.
to do with this Lakers team.
No, I didn't know what to do with them on Wednesday. Or on Tuesday. I still don't know what to do with them today.
No.
By the way, very much like Siakam here, so we can flip over to the other side on the Lakers.
Yeah.
But look, the truth is, LeBron James is supposed to play, 28 to what they say, 28 to 32 minutes. So
yeah, I
guess he
gave him
played
32 today. By the way, Josh Hart questionable, Lance Stevenson questionable, Tyson Chandler questionable.
Yeah. Yeah,
Go on.
I'm saying like LeBron could play 28 or he could play 32.
Right.
That's fun.
I gave him 32 and I don't want him, so that makes me very happy.
I put him at 30, right in the middle of that range, and I'm not going to get any of him at all.
Like
I've
I gave
decided on
Rondo 30. I think that's tough to talk. Like I can't get there. I gave Kuzma 32. I don't really get there. I gave JaVale 24, and I'm getting there. And 24, I mean, it could be 20 or 30. I have no idea what to do here.
I've decided I'm just going to ignore this team.
It's not the worst idea in the world. KCP for 3,500, I don't think can be ignored on DK, especially if a couple of those guys end up actually sitting.
Right. So when I'm talking about ignoring them, I'm talking about not getting anyone with, extreme frequency.
Yeah.
If so, the whole KCP thing to me,
he's at 3% expected ownership on DraftKings.
Is he?
Yeah.
That last game seems like such an anomaly, though.
Yeah, I mean, he's shitty.
He came off the bench, and he played 16 straight minutes. Here's the thing. He played 16 straight minutes to close out the first half, but Rondo didn't return. Rondo did not return until 2 minutes left in the first half. So I don't see that happening again. These rotations were really, really, really strange. Could KCP just come in and take those minutes away from Reggie Bullock? Absolutely. That's exactly what he did in the second half. Bullock played about 9 minutes.
Bullock's only played 22, 22, and 20 in his last 3.
Right. Bullock played 9 minutes in the third quarter, came out, and then KCP played 15 and a half minutes to close out the game. I still don't know what to make of that. I have no idea whether or not that's something we're going to see again today. If I were to get 5% KCP, I'd be okay with it, but I don't see myself getting out of control there either.
No, not at all. Ted, come on now. Walton has no idea how to run an NBA rotation. It's crazy. They're missing 2 of their starting 5 players. The rest of the roster is garbage. Guys like KCP, they brought in JaVale. They traded their best center for a guy that doesn't play.
Yeah, no,
they're kind of tying Walton's hands behind his back a bit.
Wait, who was their best center?
Zubac.
Yeah, I still think it's McGee.
Sure, but
hold on, that's
you don't want to trade him.
That's not an argument I'd want to get into because I have no strong feelings on that whatsoever.
Yeah, no, not clear. At all. I'd rather take the 22-year-old dude or however old he is than JaVale or Muscala.
They were willing to trade all of their young players.
Yeah.
Instead, they just pissed them all off.
I can't blame Walton too much. They're not exactly giving him the tools to succeed.
Yeah, I mean, he did such a great job coaching a Golden State Warriors team to a good record in Steve Kerr's absence. Man, really impressive.
Not a Walton guy, huh?
It's not that I'm not a Walton guy. It's just, you could have taken some really bad. You could have taken some really bad coaches, and they probably would have done just fine with that Warriors team that season.
Oh yeah, for sure. Shit, I'd have done it.
Right, that's all I'm saying. Like, all right, guys, let's get out. It's like remember the movie Due Date with Zach Galifianakis and
I do.
What's the
I
name?
saw that on like
The ex-drug addict.
Thanksgiving.
Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah, I saw that on like Thanksgiving or Christmas or one of those 2 days.
It's a superb movie, especially with Danny McBride in the Western Union. What a good scene that was.
I don't remember any of this.
You don't?
No.
Okay, so
Katie
you
and I went
don't
to see
remember
it on
Zach
like the day after Thanksgiving, and I haven't seen it since. But we enjoyed the
so
shit out of it. So should I watch it again?
absolutely.
Okay.
It's really Zach Galifianakis does like this locker room speech where Robert Downey Jr. is trying to see if he can act because he's trying to go to Hollywood, and it's basically one of those like, Johnson, you look like a girl out there. Come on. And basically one of these most horrible generic playoff or halftime speeches that gets nobody psyched up. Says nothing outside of what you'd think you would see in a movie. That's what I think you could do for that Warriors team, and they would go out there and win by 50.
Yep, exactly. This is why the show takes 2 hours every day.
Yep.
That's what
and you need to watch that again for real.
That I will do. Yeah, I enjoyed it. Love all those guys. 2 games left. You ready to move on?
Let's do it. We're actually making pretty good time.
For us? Well, we're at an hour 15, so we're going to come in right about where we normally do. Utah Jazz hosting the Minnesota Timberwolves, another team that I could just do without at this point. 118.25 implied total for the Jazz, 105.25 for the Wolves. Just so I make sure I get it all. Jeff Teague questionable, Wiggins questionable, Covington still out, Towns probable, Rose questionable, Luol Deng out. Great.
Does it make you as happy as it makes me to see that this college cheating scandal is landing all of these undeserving and entitled assholes in a whole lot of hot water?
I know nothing about it.
Oh, really?
No, I don't pay attention to news.
I won't get into it then. A bunch of Hollywood actresses and actors just got caught paying people a lot of money to cheat and get their kids into Ivy League colleges.
Oh, yeah, that's smart. I would do the
same
thing.
Remember the mom from Full House, the hot mom from Full House?
Becky?
She just got released on $1 million bail.
That's fucking preposterous.
Dude, I can't believe you have not heard of this. Yeah, she just got released on $1 million bail. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. Yeah.
She shouldn't even go to jail for that. You shouldn't even have to pay bail for that. What's she going to do?
They couldn't find her. She had to turn herself in. I think she legitimately considered going on the run. Like they could not find her when they went to arrest her.
Oh, do we not have bigger shit to worry about?
One of these Silicon Valley execs. Well, no, you know what though? No, bullshit. Because there are kids that work their whole life to get into a college that come from nothing, that don't have those privileges, that don't have those luxuries in life. And you have these assholes paying people to cheat to get them in and take their place, someone who has justly worked to get that. No, fuck them, man.
Sounds like real life to me.
What's that?
Sounds like a lesson in real life to me.
Yeah, well, it's nice to see once in a while that that it turns the other way. Look, man, I believe in a meritocracy where you get where you go based on merit. Simple enough. Not by cheating, not for anything else. The best person for the job should get it. And now we're seeing a little bit of cold justice, Josh. It's good to see. Anyway, with Utah,
we got Becky Katsopoulos putting up a fucking $1 million to try to get out of jail.
Well, it's 100,000, but yeah, sure. Still 10% of it. But still, I mean, it's not.
We got bigger shit to worry about.
It's a pretty big scale. A $500 billion lawsuit right now. It's pretty intense. Anyway,
that's the weirdest thing ever.
Wait till you see the type. At least give it a look at something. You see the type of stuff that they were doing to get these kids into school. Outrageous stuff. Like
Josh prefers fraud is one of the messages in YouTube chat right now.
Prefers what?
Fraud. Josh shitting on the little man. Not a good look, Josh. I'm getting roasted for this.
You should be. In all seriousness, you should be getting roasted. You should be. To see people go down. Yeah, you should be.
No, I'm not with you on this one.
What, you think it's...
Can we deal with the actual crime in all of this, which is college in general? Because that's the thing that's bilking all of the money out of the United States
Dude,
at this point.
Yeah, of course it is. Of course. Well, the problem is that you have these subsidized loans. So then the schools know that they can charge whatever they want for it, because when it's subsidized and it's going to get paid for no matter what, yeah, of course. That's the biggest problem with it.
An
When
18-year-old
you're
kid shouldn't be able
borrowing,
to be like, hey, can I have $125,000, please? And they're just like, yeah, of course. Sure you can.
right. That's the problem. And the prices keep going up.
Meanwhile, to buy a house, it's like you need a lot of documentation.
Of course. Yeah, it's so easy to loan that to borrow that much money. The school says, "All right, well these people are getting these federal loans, and well, they're not paying out of their own pockets, not now at least. Wait till they see what kicks them in the ass 10 years down the road. They're not paying out of their own pocket. So we're going to charge them out the ass, and we're going to put the tuition wherever we want because we know they're going to get loans to pay it." It's insanity. It's
really
absolute insanity. But you're wrong in saying that there's absolutely no problem with rich parents cheating to get their kids into school. So then other people who have worked hard to get in literally don't get into school because someone that's entirely undeserving, that has done no work whatsoever, gets in based on no merit at all.
Okay, if they don't literally not go to college, come on.
Well, they might not get into the college they deserve to get into. So this is a problem with that. Look, all I'm saying is if everything was a meritocracy where you get in based on merit and what you deserve, this world would be a much better place on all fronts.
I do not disagree with that in the slightest.
That's all I'm saying.
You and I are on the same page there, 100%.
That's all. If I'm not good enough for something, I should have no excuses to get myself in. The best person for the job, no matter what, should get it. That's why I see this and I think, good. These entitled kids get in there. Now you don't look so sharp, do you? Like, bro, they were getting them signed on to like football teams as kickers and punters for schools that didn't even have football teams. Like the
I
one girl,
applaud the creativity there.
They got her in on like a crew scholarship, and she'd never been in a boat before. It's crazy.
That's initiative. That is initiative right there.
Yeah, it's pretty intense. This is a pretty wild story. Anyway, I'm sorry to sidetrack you. I had to do that. But what are you? Where are you at on? Did you start with Minnesota or Utah?
We haven't started at all.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll start with the home team.
Sure, that'll work. How do you feel about Rudy Gobert here? Because I got quite a bit on DK.
I don't understand the pricing on him. Like he just continues to be too cheap, and so long as that's going to be the case, I'll still have some. Like I said, I have a lot of Marc Gasol, a decent amount of Jijic, Siakam, and Gobert. I got 25% Gobert initially, and I feel pretty okay about that.
20 what?
25% Gobert.
Yeah, I got 22. I'm totally cool with it.
Right.
He's too cheap.
Yeah.
He's too cheap.
Like when you compare that to, 96 on FanDuel, where we always see the player pricing. Like what's crazy to me though, man, is we'll get there. I just say it quickly, but Jokic is now 10-2 on FanDuel. That's pretty insane.
Very, very insane. We're gonna get there.
But Rudy Gobert. Outside of Rudy Gobert, I was actually surprised at the amount of Donovan Mitchell I got. I did not think that I would get much Donovan Mitchell, but I did get a decent amount of him. So Donovan Mitchell is somebody that I have quite a bit of right now. I have him projected very nicely in this game against the Minnesota squad defensively that has really struggled throughout the year. So Mitchell and Gobert are two guys that I landed on a decent amount of.
I have a ton of Mitchell as well. Again, this is DraftKings particularly.
Yes,
Mitchell is
correct,
9,800
correct.
on FanDuel and 8,300 on DK. I got 32% Mitchell.
Yeah,
I got 20% favors.
How much favors?
20.
Yeah, I got 6% favors. I mean, wouldn't mind getting more or less than that. It doesn't matter to me, but yeah, it's an interesting one. They're playing a back-to-back, but I'm not too concerned there. Favors on back-to-backs has actually played more minutes on the second end of back-to-backs this season. So, yeah, not a bad spot for Utah.
No, we haven't even talked about the guy that I have the most in this entire game, although it's not on DraftKings.
What is it, Ingles?
Yeah, I got 45% Ingles on my first go round on FanDuel.
On FanDuel.
Yep, 60,
Yeah, because he's in that like I'm saying, he's in that no man's land at small forward on FanDuel.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's Bojan at 60. Bojan, shit.
Oh, he's back to his old ways.
I caught it before anybody said anything. Isaac at 65, Chetty 63, Ingles 61, Barton 59, Barnes 56, Jay Crowder 54. Like, it's just a sea of garbage in there.
Yeah.
Ingles has the best projection for me, so he ends up taking all of it. So I don't get the sense that I'll be 4 times the field on Joe Ingles on FanDuel, but I am going to be well over the field when we get there.
It.
Yeah, FanDuel's different.
FanDuel, it's really just it's a deserted, it's a barren wasteland when it comes to that area.
It really is. I have Rubio in for 28 minutes here. That's probably a little lofty. I might get a couple shares of him, but otherwise, everything is basically just Gobert, Mitchells, and Favors for me, and mostly DK.
Yep, pretty much. I'm in the same spot.
Minnesota. 11-7 for Towns on FanDuel, 10-2 on DK, 52 on Yahoo. I'm having a hard time getting to 11-7 for Towns on FanDuel, but 10-2 on DK, I'm right with the field. I have 16%. We have 19. The key here is, though, we can't even speculate on Minnesota right now. I have Wiggins, Teague, and Rose in because what the hell else do I do right now?
I mean, I got 22% Towns with all of them in on DraftKings.
Yeah.
10,200. I don't care about the matchup. Like with Ayton yesterday, I was not taking the bait on that only because DeAndre Ayton was he cheap? Yeah, sure, he was cheap. But still, it's not like DeAndre Ayton's going to go out there and just blow it open. With Towns, he's a totally different player. I mean, he's dominant. Matchups haven't mattered as much. Hell, in 3 meetings with Minnesota or with Utah, he's averaging 57 fantasy points this season already. If Jeff Teague is out, I like him even more.
Yeah.
He really does benefit from an assist standpoint when Teague is off the floor. That makes a big difference. So right now I have 22%, given that all of those guys play. My guess is that if they don't play, I would have even more than 22%. As far as the rest of this team goes, I really don't have much interest. It's there. Looking just to make sure I'm not missing out or missing anything here. I do not believe right now that I have really anything outside of Karl Anthony Towns for Minnesota.
I completely agree. As people drop off, you got everybody knows what to do at this point when these guys are out. If Teague is out, play more Tyus Jones. If Wiggins is out, play some Keita Bates-Diop. If Teague and Rose are out, play everybody in the damn backcourt. There's just no way to hash this out right now. They basically have what? If we just talk about Wiggins, Teague, and Rose, we have 90 minutes in flux. I can't. All we're doing is speculating then.
You can't speculate. Like you said, you do what you've done before if these guys are out. And still, to be fair, take the matchup into consideration. It is a tough defensive matchup. And take the salaries into consideration. If they're still cheap enough, then you can go ahead and plug them in. Like the few of these guys would be perfectly fine in the event that Wiggins or Teague or Rose sits. But as of now, we have no idea. That's something you want to pay attention to. Unfortunately, it is a 9 p.m. game. Hopefully, we'll have some inclination of what's going to happen prior to that.
They didn't play yesterday, right?
The Timberwolves, no.
So at the very least, they'll have a shoot around today.
Right. They played last on Tuesday.
Yeah. So I assume that we get the news that Andrew Wiggins is a game time decision and Teague and Rose are still questionable because the Timberwolves suck at this.
They're real bad at it. It seems intentional.
Oh, man. Final game. You ready?
Let's do it.
The Denver Nuggets hosting the Dallas Mavericks. 115.5 implied total for the Nuggets. 104.5 for the Mavs. Second lowest on the slate. Mavs defense over their last 15 has been dreadful. Second worst on this entire slate. It's not a particularly pace-up spot for the Nuggets, but offensively they should do pretty damn well. Nikola Jokic is 10-2 on FanDuel. 10,000 flat on DraftKings, $48 on Yahoo. I got 35% Jokic on FanDuel and 25 on DK. His price is just insanity on FanDuel.
On FanDuel, there's just no getting around that, right? There really isn't. I mean, 10-2, I was shocked to see that. I was shocked. Oddly enough, on DraftKings, I did not get a lot of Jokic at all. And, I can, what's that?
Wow.
So here's why.
Yeah.
Now this will be, I'm obviously going to adjust for this, but it was because initially I got a lot of Jijic, and I'm going to cap him much lower. And then I got a ton of Marc Gasol, who I don't plan on capping very low. So I got around 10% Jokic initially. Mind you, I also got a lot of Towns. So Jokic was more or less a casualty in terms of being less or less than Karl Anthony Towns, because I got a lot of him. So I'm looking at this, like I got, what did I say? 24% Vooch, 22% Towns. I got a lot of Gobert as well, around 28%. Then Marc Gasol I got a lot of. I just don't know how much Jokic I can realistically get to there. That's kind of the problem. Now, I'm going to do my best to make sure that I spread this out enough, because not getting any Jokic is scary when he's at that price point. But the problem is, you have Towns, you have Vooch against Cleveland, you have Gobert at 8K.
Yeah.
You have Miles Turner, who I got around 13% initially, and then Marc Gasol, who's just ungodly cheap. And then Jijic, who as of now, without any news, is still one of the better value plays on this slate. It's a deep position once again.
It's insanity. And this is sort of, we're ending back where we started. This is why I don't get much Miles Turner, because there's Towns and Jokic and Vooch and Gobert and Siakam and Millsap and Horford and Gasol and Jijic, and all of a sudden it's just like I can't play everybody.
Right.
So Turner ends up being the guy that's like I'm not getting to, because there's just a sea of dudes. This position is absolutely loaded. Everybody seems to be underpriced, and it's craziness. I have Jokic as the third best center right now, behind Gasol and slightly behind Gobert. I have him a little bit ahead of Towns, but I got 25% Jokic. I love this position today.
I want to point something out from a comment that we got in chat. I think it's a reasonable comment, but
yeah.
I'll explain why he's underpriced. Dante said 10-2 seems like it's correctly priced given his recent performance the last 2 weeks. His upside's crazy for the price, but he hasn't done much lately. I'll just fill you in on a couple things. One, last game, massive blowout, played 26 minutes, had 4 fouls. Game before that, blowout, played 29 minutes. Granted, he wasn't on pace to have huge games, but you're coming in around 50 there. Lakers only shot 5 times, still had 52 fantasy points. San Antonio, tough matchup. That just wasn't a great game. But then New Orleans, 22 minutes. He was in constant foul trouble. He had 50 fantasy points almost in 22 minutes.
Pour one out for Adam there.
Yeah. So he's had a couple, right. He's had a couple games where you say, yeah, it should have been better. But I can explain away a decent amount of this due to blowouts or foul trouble, and I'm not at all worried about Nikola Jokic. There's nothing to suggest that there's anything wrong with him here.
Over the last 30 days, he has the 6th highest FanDuel point per minute in the league, behind Anthony Davis, Towns, Giannis, LeBron, and Vooch.
Yep.
Yeah, like he hasn't gone anywhere. He's still
he's fine.
He's still a top guy. He's just played less minutes, so it makes the totals look weird. But on a per minute basis, he's still out here smashing shit. And this is a pretty tasty spot, because I'm going to go out on a limb and say that I don't think Dwight Powell has what it takes to slow him down all that much.
Yeah, me neither. Although it has been interesting to see centers against Dallas recently have not been as impressive as I expected. But again, not something you're worried about either.
No, he transcends that a bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've got quite a bit of Jokic. We touched on it earlier. I have quite a bit of Paul Millsap, 38% on FanDuel, 6,900. I got 13% on DK. He's just a guy that I'm going to be over the field on. I'm actually below his FanDuel points per minute over his last 30 days, and I still can't stop getting 25% more than the public on FanDuel.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. Not me. I don't. We talked about that, so I won't waste anybody's time. I do not have much Millsap whatsoever.
So what do you just because I'm kind of curious because I'm getting so much at least on FanDuel. What do you have him projected for minutes and sort of what do you have him as a rate?
All right, hold on. Rate 1.08 per minute and 31 minutes.
Okay.
What do you have him at?
1.16. 30 minutes.
Bit of a difference there.
Yeah.
How many minutes?
30.
You have him 30 minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
So then we shouldn't be coming in that far off.
No, I've got him projected for 34.9 FanDuel points.
Yeah, and I have him right around 33. So, interesting.
I'm surprised you're not getting more. I'll be honest.
Well, here's why. Here's why. Kawhi Leonard, I'm getting a lot of. He's power forward eligible. Pascal Siakam's another one.
Hold on, I'm talking about FanDuel right now. On DK, I only have 13% on DK.
Oh, okay. I didn't even run it on FanDuel. I thought we were talking DraftKings.
Well, then, we're not. Yeah, I only got 13% on DK. I think the 2% that he's
at
is outlandish, but he's not priced as well as he is on FanDuel there.
No. Yeah, I thought you were talking about DraftKings because that's what we talked about earlier. I wasn't
because when we were talking about, I was like, I think you're you almost have to be getting more on FanDuel at those rates.
Yeah, that's different.
Okay, so same page. Miscommunication there. What do you think about Jamal Murray at 6,400 on DraftKings?
I like Jamal Murray. I liked him a lot on Tuesday too. He's a solid play here at this price.
Yeah.
Murray's scoring dependent. There's no denying that. He's not your typical point guard that goes out there and might only score 12 points, but he can give you 50 fantasy. That's just not who he is. He needs to score. But I don't see him having any trouble scoring here against the likes of Jalen Brunson and Luka Doncic. That's not a big concern to me. So, I think Jamal Murray at 6,400 against Dallas, this is a very solid play to me. Especially I'll be very curious to see what ownership is on this price range, where you have the Darren Collisons and the Murrays.
Yeah.
Right. And
Murray
a bunch
at 16% right now.
At 16%, yeah.
Let me see who's around him.
I have more than that for what it's worth.
He is 64. So we've got Murray at 64 is at 16%. Rondo's at 5. Collison 23. Ingles 5. I'm just getting anybody that has overlap in position. Wiggins at 0. Barton at 5. So, I mean, Murray's basically second highest behind Collison in that range.
Right. No, I like him here.
Yeah.
I like him quite a bit.
No more Isaiah Thomas in the rotation. So Monte Morris, 43% expected ownership on FanDuel, 40% on DK at 3,500. I'm going to have quite a bit of Monte Morris here.
He hit my cap.
Yeah. People were asking earlier before we got to the Denver game, why is Monte Morris chalk? Isaiah Thomas is out of the rotation. Monte Morris is going to play 26 minutes, and he's under 4K.
3,500 on Monte Morris here. Getting away from that is crazy.
Yeah.
If I didn't set a cap, he probably would have been in every lineup, honestly.
Yeah, he's a fantastic value play today.
I mean, look at it this way. 3,500 is very rare that you get somebody who can give you 27 minutes and 30 plus fantasy points and do it with semi regularity, right?
Yeah.
So that to me is it's very, very, very difficult to get away from. Outside of there are two guys right now from a point per dollar standpoint that I have above them, and that is Marc Gasol and Djigic. And I think I have Djigic's minutes too high, so it might just be Marc Gasol by the end of all this.
That makes sense. Trying to look and see if there's anybody around Morris that I like at low salary, but I mean, it's Morris by a country mile.
Well, there is one guy, not that I like him, but that should be pretty popular and that you may get a decent amount of just based on salary and minutes. And
Gary Harris?
it's in this game. It's on the other side though. It's Dorian Finney-Smith.
Sure. It's also Gary Harris. 22% expected ownership right now, 3,900. That is not a spot I'm getting.
It's funny because who would have thought Gary Harris would be this cheap? I got 5% on DraftKings, which is crazy given how cheap he is. But a lot of that is because, Monte Morris is only point guard eligible.
Yeah.
But still, I just am not getting a lot of Gary Harris.
I got 3%.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't have expected that to look at it, but I mean, like Denver's just too good.
Yeah,
I'd
rather
they got
take
too many dudes.
Just give me Monte Morris as my value guard.
Agreed. And then I got a little bit of Will Barton at 5,900 on FanDuel, and that's basically just positionally.
Yeah, you're in no man's land again.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. Want to close out with Dallas?
Let's do it.
Luka Doncic, 9,600 on FanDuel, 8,400 on DK. This dude's gonna cost me money again. So I assume he's gonna be costing Adam some scratch as well. How do you feel about Luka today? Because I got a ton.
Yeah. So, 1 second here.
Yeah.
Let me just pull something up. Oh, yeah. He's coming off his worst game as a pro, no doubt.
Mm-hmm.
He shot 1 of 9 from the free throw line. 1 for 7 from 3, 9 turnovers. Unbelievable. Luka Doncic here at 8,400 is criminally underpriced. And I don't think that I wouldn't be surprised if this ownership projection comes down throughout the day.
I hope it does.
I could be completely wrong, but there's just something about Luka that he's never that popular, ever. Like, he's never that popular, even when he's expensive or cheap. And now he's coming off of such a dismal game that maybe it pushes more people off of him. If you're getting Doncic at 8,400, it's just really tough to overlook. I don't love the matchup, but I don't really care about it. The only concern here is that Dallas is playing putrid basketball right now. I mean, I get it. They've had a couple close games recently, but they've gotten trashed in a few of them as well. I think they've lost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 straight. Now they're in Dallas in Denver in the altitude. As a team, they could just get ravaged here. But at 8,400, it kind of does not matter. And I'm not factoring that in anyway.
Yeah, I'm going to end up with a lot of him. I'm super nervous about his health.
Yeah, that is a bit of a concern. Not only that, but you've got him, nearing the end of the season, averaging 32 minutes in his rookie game. These Euro players, we've certainly seen them hit that wall.
He's not exactly in peak physical condition to begin with.
I've got to tell you, that is actually a very good point to raise here. Now, does it mean that we don't like him or you don't like him? No. But should we begin to see his efficiency wane a bit? It's really possible. Yeah. It's really possible.
I'll probably put like a percentage discount on him and then see where I come out. But I'd be very surprised if I'm not over the field.
So over 26%.
I would guess.
What do you have him projected at right now?
48.
48. Okay. I have him at 46. So not getting probably as much as you are, but yeah.
LMAO, so funny. Josh and Adam shitted on CJ Miles. No, we didn't. Well, I mean, maybe Adam did. I had a ton of him. So I think I got 50-something% of CJ Miles yesterday on FanDuel.
That's a lot.
Yeah. So no, I was right there. I think I had 12 on DraftKings or something, which is still perfectly acceptable for Miles. But yeah, I didn't shit on CJ.
I didn't get as much Luka as I thought, to be honest with you.
Yeah, 44 for me right now.
Yeah, it was a lot more than I got.
And he is basically, the poster boy for fantastic ways to be rostered on DraftKings. Point guard, small forward. You can put him in 5 different slots. You could just accumulate a lot of exposure like that.
Actually, I got 36%. So that's a decent amount. It's above the field right now.
It's pretty healthy. I got a lot of other guys in this game too. I got 20% Dwight Powell on FanDuel. I've got way too much Tim Hardaway right now compared to the public in the teens. Both sites. Do you like Powell or Hardaway?
Hardaway, I don't really have much interest in. Dwight Powell continues to see a good amount of run, but how the hell am I going to be playing Dwight Powell on? I don't know how I'm going to get to Dwight Powell when I just rattled off 100 different centers that I love.
Like, I think Dwight Powell grades out well if you don't look at anybody else. And then when you look at the rest of the center, you're like, oh,
exactly.
Cool, he's like the 17th best guy.
Right, exactly. That's kind of the problem. Like, I'm already not getting enough Jokic. I don't think that means that I'm going to get a lot of Powell.
Yep. That's a safe bet. I don't know. I'm going to have to take a closer look at Tim Hardaway because he's popping up like way too much.
Finney-Smith is a guy that I was getting a decent amount of because...
Yeah, I have 34%.
Yeah, I capped him at 30 because I cannot. I mean...
It's 3,400.
I know he's 3,400.
His price went down.
What's that?
I think his price went down. I think he played 37 minutes in the last game too.
He's just so bad, man. Like, the thing I don't like about him is he can play 30 minutes and give you 13 fantasy points.
Yeah.
I refuse to let someone like that ruin my night entirely.
Yeah, it's not fun. It's not fun at all. I'm going to have some for right now, but I hope enough value opens up that I can offload some of it.
Right.
What do you think of Maxey? I got quite a bit on FanDuel, 3,900. I don't think that really counts. I only got 3% on DraftKings at 3,700, but he played massive minutes the last time out.
On DraftKings, I actually got 17%.
Okay. Yeah, I only got 3. I'm not really comfortable with that.
I mean, he played 34 minutes. He took 2 shots. So not exactly appealing from a volume standpoint, but he's played 30-plus minutes in back-to-back games. So that's nice to see. Can he do something with those minutes? It's yet to be seen, right? I don't know. It's hard to say. Dirk Nowitzki's minutes have come down precipitously, and that definitely is going to help Maxey here. Yeah, if I were to get around 15% Maxey, I'd be fine with that because if he's getting 30 minutes or so, it's not like he can't fall into a decent game.
For sure. Yeah, I'll have a lot on FanDuel just because of the drop score stuff, but I expected to get a little bit more on DK. We'll see where that ends up.
I mean, the thing is right now, other than Monte Morris, who I actually really like as a value play, right? Like actually think he's a good value, not just a random punt. You know, and I think Jijic is fine, but outside of that, it's like Finney-Smith, Danny Green, Maxi Kleber, these type of guys. They are ones that if I mix in, a little bit here and there, I'd be okay with it. That's where I'd feel most comfortable. Not really going above 25% on or so on any of them, including Finney-Smith. That's where I'd feel a little bit better because all of them are super volatile with incredibly low floors that can blow your night apart if you have too much of them. And I like to try and avoid that each night when possible, especially given that Finney-Smith isn't likely to be winning you tournaments either. He's the type of guy that you hope he gives you 25. Like you really hope he gives you 25.
Yeah, for sure. Ooh, we did it.
Not bad. Under 2 hours.
Hour 50.
Not bad.
But we're going to have these Tuesday, Thursday, like solid size slates for at least another week or two. So
Works for me.
me too. Hit that like button on your way out the door. Very helpful for us. NBA Strategy is the promo code. One big word. Any monthly package you choose, you get 50% off the first month, including stuff with Fantasy Cruncher. Coming up later today, Adam will have the deep dive. Go easy on him, guys. He's rocked emotionally from his Thrive assault. Deeper dive rather, coming up 5 to 6. Adam and Lofty working their way through the slate again. And then myself and Fast Eddie Fear, 6 to 7, live before lock. Tune in. Lofty, anything else?
I think that'll do it. We'll see you later tonight.
Alrighty. Later, everybody.